Hello, everybody. It's 4 o'clock, our time for a great event, a great webinar with a great guest. I think we need a couple of more minutes to allow everybody to join. This moment, we already have 20, 23, 40 attendees. We had an amazing number of registrations for our webinar of today. About 500 people registered. Let's see how many will make it. And a lot of requests to share the recording afterwards from people who, some people have to work and pay taxes. So not everybody is available during the day. So Arian, welcome.
Thank you.
You're in Brussels now, right? Same as me.
Yes.
The beautiful, rainy Brussels.
Indeed.
What can we do before? Waiting for people to join? We are just talking about the weather, especially in London and Brussels. London used to be the capital. London used to be the capital of the empire. I think it was. I don't remember. Somebody like Oscar Wilde said that you need to rule the best salon in London because London rules Britain and Britain rules the world. Now we are having Brussels doing the same. Look, I was Friday, I was invited in Leuven University for a presentation on my PhD thesis topic. I graduated Leuven here in Belgium with a topic on managing project complexity. And obviously I related it to the technology and the complexity of technology in today's world. Complexity is the thing that started me over in rethinking about how we align to the new technological developments that happen every day for us. And it is a little bit anecdotic, but for instance, one of the first things that I said was that we are living in this incredible transformation age where we have artificial intelligence that becomes ubiquitous for everybody and for every task. But it's not something new. Technology has always changed and transformed the way we do things everywhere. 10 years ago, we were not able to collaborate in such large groups. We were not able to open a document and edit a document or a presentation 30, 40, 50 people like we are able to do it now. And obviously, the pandemic, COVID, changed a lot in the way we accept technology. Until 4 years ago, we were very reluctant, but now everybody has to embrace new technology. We were forced to. And when you go back even 20 years ago, it was not possible before Steve Jobs came and with the phone and said, let's put, what did he say? Let's put a music player and the phone and into one device and the camera, right? Into one device. And until that moment, we were not able to drive and listen to Stefan and Arian talking about artificial intelligence in the public sector and public procurement. And 30 years ago, we didn't even have mobile phones. So we got used to them, and these tools became ubiquitous in every aspect. So I have the great pleasure of being joined today by Arian Turhani. He is an experienced professional, great background in IT strategy, business transformation, information security. He's been with Capgemini for a very long time. So
5 years. 5 years. That's okay.
And in Brussels and managing large, complex European projects since 2002. Maybe he's now managing huge and great business, the business of Capgemini for European institutions all over Europe. What we are going to talk today, so artificial intelligence related to public sector and public procurement, meaning, as I was saying earlier, AI and technology are transforming our life, and we want to go very practical, very pragmatic about what we can, how we solve and what we are doing in this sector as well. This is a huge sector. technology is impacting today as well this sector. So we have several aspects. We are going to give practical examples to talk about practical things, and we are going to tackle data, tools, and generative AI. Questions are open. Arian, maybe I should kindly ask you to start the meeting with a few thoughts on the topic.
Certainly. Okay, good afternoon, everybody, from the rainy Brussels. Nothing special. Winter's coming, as we say. So it's a pleasure to share with you some thoughts we were discussing with Stefan earlier on the use of AI and the evolution of all this a series of activities related to public procurement. Obviously, my particular experience is more on the services part, not related to any works and major products purchases by the public entities. But it's quite interesting to share. I mean, I put a couple of slides there just to share some thoughts, but definitely open for questions and points of view to share with you. Again, the idea here is not to talk about the technology per se, but is more tackling it from a normal common sense perspective, and what do we do to reinforce the use of the technology in order to help and enhance our capabilities to respond to the needs of our clients. So very briefly, I would like to share with you some thoughts. One thing which is very interesting to share is that currently in Europe, there are 250,000 entities that launch open call for tenders and they procure different services and works through their processes and procedures. Why it is so important? Because as you may understand, this represents, first of all, about 2 trillion euros per year, representing about 14% of the EU GDP. So as the estimates show that only 1% of efficiency gain could save about 20 billion of euros per year. So it's quite impressive at the macroeconomical level to see how much the public procurement efficiency can bring in on both sides. So then I was just reflecting a bit on that, and for those who might be in the call and they know what we have seen and lived with years ago, there were many people working on the from the sales perspective on the preparation of the proposals, as well as from the administrative point of view. That means that there were a lot of people, a lot of effort to make it happen, which ended up to an outcome that was a huge palette of papers that were submitted at the public entities. So it may seem to be exaggerated, but although this is a generated picture and it's not the reality, the size of it was a reality years ago for very big tenders at that time. So having said that, you can see the consumption that was there in terms of labor, work power, as well as in terms of paper consumption and anything else around it. So that's where we were a few years ago. And then I would just see it also from the perspective of the buyer and the provider. So although they both have to match the interest at one point in time, what's interesting is that there might have different perspectives of how to address certain points and how to build efficiency internally. So a few things I was thinking on the buyer's part, what we observe in several aspects of it. Obviously, there is a time to market. So today we see that generally there is, from the first design of open call for tender to the start of the work, maybe between 18, above 12 months at least, but it may go 18 to 24 months. In the today's world, the time to market is becoming so crucial, so important, that it's pretty long in terms of addressing the challenges, especially the efficiencies that the technology can bring in. And there are some other important elements. One of the points I wanted to address is better use of data. Public sector is really swamped of data. I mean, they are also largely pushed by the European entities. They are very much public, and therefore we can see a huge amount of data for which I mean, we can draw a lot of good outcomes and conclusions. And nevertheless, unfortunately, they are still not used at all the levels. And therefore, one of the challenges for public entities is really make better use of those data and use them efficiently for the good, also in terms of public procurement. Obviously, regulation is the major element that bounds everything else that is going around in terms of public procurement. Then also, as we know, in public authorities, the best value per money is the one that prevails and is the most important element that they have to choose. And therefore, finding the right value there, it's also part of the challenge. Sovereignty and security are becoming very important pieces of the puzzle that we need to address without forgetting fairness and equality. And in the end, we go to the return on investment of whatever investment could be done on that. But there is one point I wanted to tackle in particular, is the expertise. So when we talk about expertise, is the capability to manage the technology right and to make use of it in order to get ready to understand and what's coming up. I mean, I didn't put in there, but it's like in the today's worlds, like the professor with the students using ChatGPT largely, and the professor has to accept or to observe where the thesis is generated by the machine or is done with the human brain behind it. And that's also a challenge also in public tenders, where this, let's say, generated content might drive things in a different way. But now let's tackle a bit from the provider's point of view. Definitely a time to market, which is very closely linked to the cost of sale and return on investment, become very, very important. Because as I said earlier, if a project or a call for tender goes from, I mean, beyond 12 months and maybe 24, so in some cases a bit longer, imagine what's behind the provider's cost of sale and the effort that is being taken there to cope with the needs from the client. Nevertheless, there are also definitely from the provider's point of view, the automation has been always one of the most critical elements to put there. And what we wanted to put there, and this is one thing that largely is being used from the industry, and in particular, I would say here in Capgemini, the knowledge management part, which is very, very important to make use of it. Because we all know when you have a tradition and you have been working for some time in different projects, you have a lot of wealth of information about different projects that have been run, as well as proposals that have been delivered earlier, which is, in fact, I recall years ago when I started in this business that I was told that in general, and this is, I think it's part of the truth, that the part of the R&D for the services companies is during the pre-sales process, because that's a creativity part that you really foresee and you build what the future would look like for a particular project or program. And therefore, all the, let's say, the thoughts are being spent there. Having said that, the use of the knowledge management has been one of the most critical elements to make use of it, to really increase the usage at broader scale and build or generate also content based off this existing knowledge management. Nevertheless, the future will not be based 100% of what has happened in the past, but is the imagination and the work, the creativity work that is behind. So having said that, when we go through all the processes and all the key elements there, we definitely need, and we are embracing all the elements that related to the technology, that the benefits of the technology that brings in to make a better and more accurate proposal. So a few things on the major players as we work with, without the one of that Stefan has created and is leading successfully. What's important is that from the sales perspective, some of those big players like Salesforce and Dynamics, a bit of HubSpot, they are playing a very, very important role to really build very efficient sales processes, to do the deep analysis of the work that is being done in different sectors, from the competition, from the client, as well as what's in the company, and based on that, to generate data that would be able to understand where do we sit, are we the ones to deliver those services, and if there is any other particular topic that would make us differentiate from the others. And then we have some content generation that goes through all the other major players, from the ChatGPT, Gemini, and especially the Copilot and Mistral, that are very important players to augment whatever has been produced before and give some thoughts on future proposals that we may build in. So having said that, what we observe on both sides, so we can see that indeed that kind of work can create, can enhance the work we've been done on information and intensive tasks. It automates the repetitive tasks, and that's obvious that we have seen years ago, before all these tools have become so common. And then we go to all the other elements in the streamlining of the proposal. It enhances definitely the transparency and accountability, because all these data that we put there in the system, you can really trace back, and how did you improve and how did you do it in order not to repeat any mistake that has been done before. And obviously all the other elements, in particular for the buyer, in terms of managing the vendors right, and improve and shorten the contract management cycles. So one point I just wanted to share here is that, in particular, is that we observe, based on the study that Capgemini Research Institute has conducted, the publication of this summer, it shows clearly that AI is becoming inevitably as an team member. It's part of the conversation, and it's part of the team to bring in the value that the human, we can really build the final and have the final say. Having said that, I just wanted to close with the word that we are building maybe the capabilities behind, where the one avatar will talk to the other avatar. And that's the way how to build efficient avatars. But nevertheless, as I mentioned before, is that we really need to see and to build the differences between the human being and the machine, because in the end it's a human being that will bring the difference and will create that kind of innovation on top of it, is in terms of the proposals that are being laid down by the client. Thank you.
Super, thank you for the introduction. That was fun. We have Alin also joined us. He had some technical travel issues, but he joined us as well without video for the moment. Welcome. And you are in right at the right time.
Hello, and many apologize for the delay. My phone was stolen and all emails asked for a second authentication with the phone.
Oh, that is crazy.
And to make everything non-functional, the Zoom does not see my camera.
So nice that you could join. So we were talking, thanks for the introduction. There were some pretty nice and really interesting points. We had a couple of this minutes, some discussions a few days ago, and I think we are ready and open to go into more details on each of these things. As I was saying, I was touching complexity when I was talking Friday at the Leuven University. One of my passions now, AI is also, and the key question that I asked myself as well during my research, but also Friday, was why do we use the phone? Which you see is risky, is fragile. It crashes, it gets stolen, the battery doesn't last so long. And it is so complex, and it creates such a complex environment that it creates a lot of problems. Why do we use it? Well, we use it because it works. And that's the key topic and the key point. Technology works, and complexity helps us create technology that works. And now we have a great hype of expectation for AI. We expect it to solve everything. And sometimes we are looking for 3 months, 6 months, waiting for incredible applications to happen. Like tomorrow, we don't need to write proposals anymore. And it doesn't work like this. What we are trying to do, for instance, ourselves, is to take a practical approach, to deploy tools that are actually working and are actually helping us to solve very practical daily problems. Like, where is the share button? Lost my share button. Long live technology. Look, as I was saying, complexity works. And artificial intelligence is one of the examples and how it works and why. So what we are doing, as I was saying, we are trying to take a very, very practical approach on how and why. And a small introduction to Hermix. Most of the people that are around here know how we approach this kind of technology. What we do here is this one. We help companies win public contracts. So we are a data analytics tool. We monitor tenders from a lot of sources, including e-tendering, the EU funding portal, TED, the Belgian procurement portal, and so on and so on. We are digging through all these data sources, cleaning up the data. And we do use both traditional cleanup mechanisms as well as data engineering, a bit of machine learning to provide intelligence based on this data. We have stuff like 12 million contracts in the database and about 1 million, I think, suppliers. This is what we have been building for the last more than 3 years. We don't have the 250,000 authorities yet that Arian was saying, but we are getting close. We do have more than 1 million contractor profiles already analyzed. So this allows us to create tender profiles after, you monitor for tenders. That's what we do every day. It's a huge amount of effort. Every day you monitor for a new tender. And when you find a new tender, we are interested to understand it. does it make sense for me to answer it? And this is the first big question that we try to answer. Does it make sense for me to work on this? Because writing a tender, as Arian was saying, is incredibly expensive. It can take months or years. You produce tons of documents. So you really need to choose wisely which tender to do. And the answer to, is this tender reasonable for me, is the first thing. And the second thing is, what solution and partners should I propose? And then we go into GPT. GPT is now incredible. It solves a lot of things, not everything, obviously, solves a lot of things. And we use it for very practical applications. Stuff like we download all the tender documents from all these tender sources, and we analyze them, and we create a summary of the tender, a 2-minute summary of a tender, so that you are able, like in 10 seconds, to understand, is this for me or not? So instead of reading 500 pages, that could take you 2, 3, 4 hours, you just see the summary. Actually, I could show you an example. I think I should have an example open here. Like, look, this is a tender for what? EIB. I think it's one of the recent open ones. And this is the commercial context that I was telling you earlier. The profile of the previous winners, right? Let's make this bigger. The previous winners, the previous reasonable similar contracts and who won them. And you have the documents here. You can collaborate. These are some basic stuff. But we go to GPT tools. So we download, analyze, and give in a matter of minutes the summary of the objectives of the budget. This is what, 35 million in lot 1, 30 million in lot 2, and going even to technical award criteria, technologies, the type of contract, and so on. And this is the moment to go back to the topic of what is AI. So, right, artificial intelligence is like, I was reading recently, actually I asked GPT how many nodes it has. It said 200 billion, maybe up to 1 trillion in the latest GPT 4.0. This is 4 times, 3-4 times more nodes in the neural networks than in my brain. Obviously, this is a digital network and it is less powerful than our analogical, obviously. But this gives us an image about how complex it is. So, but we also don't need, we should also limit the level of expectations that we have from this kind of technology, because, you know, what is GPT, generative artificial intelligence today? It predicts the next word based on a number of previous words. It's just a text prediction machine. You give it a question and it says, yeah, if you pronounced these 4 words, the next most probable word is this one. And it works very nicely. For instance, as I was showing you earlier, it was this tender, right? I was showing you earlier that we are asking this kind of questions. We have specialized tools, by the way, not general. That's what I was saying. We don't do general solutions, very practical, clear solutions. And then you get very clear answers, like evaluation, 70-30. And then you can also use it directly yourself to ask for your own questions and your own templates. Like, I know, is IBM mentioned in the documents? And even I tried to play during the last couple of days with mathematical questions to see if we can trick AI into, you know, and it is surprisingly smart. At least the tools that we have now deployed in production, you know, you can ask for stuff like, what is the total value of both lots, which I did 5 minutes. 5 minutes before this webinar, I tested this question. The answer is correct. And then I played a little bit more. I tried to trick it, and I couldn't. Like, for instance, this is how I use GPT myself, as an example. I use, do me the total of this text, or the summary, or the translation of this text. And it works. And I even went to trick questions, like count the total number of fruits. But this is a trick question, right? 10 pairs of pears, 20 pairs in total. I thought it will give me 50 as an answer, but no, it gave me a correct number, 30. So it works, and this is what we are trying to do in Hermix as well, to give this kind of practical examples. It works. Or I think I had one more as an interesting example here. This was Taksud. You go so instead of going through all the 4 annexes, what is the delivery location? Where is the office of the contracting authority? Well, Berlemont, Taksud, everybody knows, and so on. What's the number of the minimum turnover? You can extract this kind of information. So to summarize and get back on what I wanted to say, and thank you for your patience on my rant. We start from monitoring data, right? From this stuff. This is my panel. I have my flagged opportunities, my daily notifications. These are my flagged opportunities, mine or my colleagues, right? And I can see if I have the documents, if I can see the profile, I can see the summary. And when I have an interesting tender, I can see the profile of the authority. This is Taksud, the same tender that I was saying, with the preferred suppliers. This is live, by the way. If you sign up, you will see this live. With the preferred suppliers, with the contact points, the business, right? With the market, and what they buy, from who they buy. These are the best suppliers of Taksud, and the number of contracts. And with one click, you can see them. And these are the profiles. Like I was looking also 5 minutes ago at the profile of the business of Arian. You have an incredible business here. So for instance, only in IT, we are talking about, this is the prof. This is IT European institutions, 85 huge contracts running from these countries being delivered. And with this kind of profiles, and these are the customers, right? This is the map of the customers. This kind of information, I was personally spending days to get a report like this on a tender or on a profile or on a partner and so on.
Stefan, because we have participants from different countries, I want to ask you, since tender documentation is published in national electronic systems, does Hermix only summarize information from these documents, or can it analyze their content in depth, adapting to the required level of complexity similar to the level of analysis in English?
So we are using different tools according to the purpose. At this moment, the tools that we deployed into production are mostly ChatGPT, but we also used and tested 3-4 other tools, LLMs. So we have summaries and templates that work at least in French, Slovenian. What else did we test? And obviously Romanian as well. And the level of accuracy for me, it starts to be more and more surprising. It's probably the same experience I was talking about earlier, technology. 20 years ago, we already had on our phone translation or speech recognition, but it didn't work. For me, speech recognition didn't work until 3-4 years ago. And this is because of today's networks are huge. So now the tools that we deployed work with an amazing success rate. In all the languages that I could test until now and that I understand. We are covering the entire Europe with notices from the official journal. We have notices from everywhere. And obviously the tender specifications are in lots of languages. Of course, most of the projects and clients that from where we started is my world, has been for 20 years. For 20 years, European institutions. So I started we started from Benelux. It's like Belgium, Luxembourg, Spain, Italy is the place where we have our core user base, more than 1,000 users at this moment. And we are very proud and happy to collaborate with them, but we are extending more and more towards South and East and everywhere. Thanks for the question.
I will ask Arian if how can technologies like Hermix or another AI tools improve supplier management and boost overall productivity in procurement teams?
Oh yeah, I mean, thanks for asking it, Alin. Indeed, when Stefan was presenting Hermix, I just wanted to add a few things here, very important. Hermix is part of the story. Okay, why it is part of the story? It really makes the work easier for us to do the deep analysis of what has happened in the last years in a particular subject or particular client or particular provider. And this is very important because first, it's based on public information and it's well connected and showed graphically very easily understandable, and you can process it easier. The rest of the work in terms of the AI, so you get this information to start. So I'd say it's a very starting point on whatever you would like to do in any particular tender. Nevertheless, the weakness or the thing that Hermes cannot bring in is that things are evolving so much in public entities. Tenders or projects are changing year on year. We are not getting the same types of contracts that are coming up as they used to be before, and therefore having a reference from Hermix, it doesn't exist. I was mentioning before the human intervention. That's why it's us to make a bit deeper work of comprehension of what's going on behind of any single project that the client would like to launch. By the way, anything related to the new technologies, the large use of cloud, as well as of AI, it is very difficult to get the right references of previous TED tenders that have been published in TED. And this is the reason that you need to go a bit deeper through other analysis that you do within the company, we do internally, in particular with Salesforce, that helps you really enhance your analysis to come up with, let's say, better, let's say, outcome into, in the analytics of a particular subject, project, client, competition, and so on. So the full stakeholders analysis. So as I said, is an excellent tool to help you set the scene, and then you have to take it over to really go a bit further with your analysis.
Thank you. And thank you for very Lebov, because I promised her that I would ask Stefan about this question, because she put it into chat. How can AI help in creating more sustainable or circular offers? Can AI help integrate circular and sustainable criteria into public procurement?
I have to start from saying that we are on the other side of the barricade. We are a company, a technology company, and our primary objective is to develop technology that help users get more value. Now, what kind of users and how they get value? We are talking about efficiency issues, about not spending hundreds of hours on manual tasks on printing papers. So from our point of view, what we do, we make work more efficient. There are also other aspects to this topic. First is that obviously we need some kind of regulations that will allow us to function, in a modern and responsible world. And we do obviously align to all the reasonable regulations, even if we don't always agree with them, because for a young company and for an entrepreneurship environment, regulations are overhead, obviously, but we understand and we comply. But I have to come with something maybe even more interesting. There is from the point of view of the suppliers, as Arian was also pointing out, there is a huge disconnect between basically three worlds. We have the public sector, which is a huge spender. We have 45% of the GDP of the world and Europe in the public sector, in everything that is education, health, social care, infrastructure, and social services, and so on and so on. And on the other hand, you have the private sector, which are the suppliers of most of these services. And where do these two worlds meet? For instance, one of the big points of meeting is data transparency and how procurement is open to newcomers, especially, for instance, smaller organizations, SMEs, or new entrants. And obviously, the European Commission and the governments in general are doing incredible things to open up with data. Opening data transparency is a piece of policy that has incredible implications in a lot of things, including, for instance, in the efficiency of procurement. Because if you have more transparency, you have more competition, and more competition means better solutions at lower prices. This kind of like, we are opening up the economy. So indirectly, this goes also towards creating a sustainable environment in the European public procurement. Also, regarding energy consumption, this is also a kind of a modern fear. So one of the fears that we have when we talk about technology is that we are spending huge amounts of energy to train LLMs and computers. Yeah, but look at the efficiency that you get. Basically, we are spending money because it gets us. It's like the Ford paradox again. And I love this paradox. Ford said when he created Model T exactly 100 years and plus ago, he created Ford Model T, and he said, I never asked my customers what they wanted, because they would have said, I want a very fast car, a very fast horse, sorry. So when you look at the first car, you can start saying that it pollutes, it consumes energy, you have oil and gas and stuff like this. Yes, but overall it is incredibly more efficient than a horse. So that's why AI, again today, is also incredibly more efficient. If you are using this tool, you pay for some hardware and you pay for some subscriptions to Hermix. Thank you. We are waiting for your signups. Yeah, but then it saves you 20, 30, 40, 50% of your time that you would have spent anyway, and you would have consumed paper instead of computing power. So I strongly believe in the role of technology to create a better world for tomorrow. And I believe in that more than in going back to roots.
Yeah, just to complement, sorry, Alin, indeed, because I see also a question about the sustainability and the circular economy. I believe there is, the examples Stefan is bringing are very interesting, because indeed, when you compare to where we were and where we are, you can see the difference, and the difference is obvious. Nevertheless, there is one point, though, that we may avoid overusing the AI for things that really can spend a lot of energy for today. And those who see the news, what's happening is the fight for water and electricity, because that's the way you have to generate and to do all the analytics behind in the data centers. Nevertheless, just going back to the circular part, for me, there is one thing, it's very simple. At least for us as a big company, make use of your own expertise, your own credentials, and really make better use of the knowledge management that already exists within the company. So, and therefore, we remain within the same cycle of using the data, the information that is already there. And indeed, so this is one of the fights that we are trying to do today. I would say, per what we used to use before in terms of energy consumption, you can see it obviously. AI is a big consumer, but then if you compare at macro level everything that's behind, then bringing the right efficiencies, not just efficiency because I want just to shut the lights, but it's more of really making efficiencies and bringing the right solutions to what the client are looking for. And that's a big thing that would allow us to better use the AI.
I like the practical approach a lot, as I was saying a little bit earlier as well. The first time, it was maybe 2 years ago, the first time when I heard this joke, which I really loved. It was, you know, in a technology company, you get the shareholders and the top management are talking about artificial intelligence. And then you have the middle management talking about machine learning. And then you have the actual software developers, and what do? Statistics and linear regressions. It is true. You start from the things that you have and they work. And you try to make sense of what you already have. If there's a process that is working, doing crazy pilots with new technology, that will bring revenue in 2, 3, 4 revenue advantages in 2, 3, 4 years doesn't make sense. And new technology needs to be integrated into the old technology. I mean, you already have your own database of information. You have 30 years or 50 years of doing business and a lot of proposals that you can use and information about the market that you can use. And that data you don't need necessarily to throw. You don't need to throw them away and bring something new, obviously.
Thank you. Because you collect information about the public procurement from different countries. Stefan, does Hermix address national legislative particularities by analyzing documents in the context of relevant national legislation, while also respecting the European directive to ensure compliance with both sets of regulations?
We are happy to live in a European Union in which I strongly believe. We first of all comply with the directives for public procurement and public transparency, which are issued by the Commission, approved and published by the Council and the Parliament. This is the way to go: standardization of data, interoperability, and availability of data. And the European policy goes towards that a lot. Now, this is first of all the theory, because we have this legislation and we have the AI Act, the Data Act, and so on and so on. And because a lot of Central European institutions are pushing towards such standards, and we are collaborating, we are working with the regulators on this, in these domains and complying. Obviously, in the implementation is not that easy. There are very few national and regional procurement authorities that are really compliant at the level of data, and there are always exceptions. So what we do is started from the middle, from the publications office, which is basically the responsible for publishing official European procurement information. And from there, you get also the practical implementation of the official taxonomies. And then you go into details, like there are several taxonomies that even the European Commission is using. I mean, the European Commission still has about 5 procurement portals at this moment. They are not compatible between each other, and they do not respect the same data taxonomy or interoperability. It is a fact. I'm not a politically correct person. And then when you go to national levels, they do implement some parts and some not. So what we do is we take country by country, and we try to align the general taxonomy to the national taxonomy. And also, you remember I was talking earlier about the disconnect between the public and the private sector. I touched this topic also in spring when it was a pleasure to participate in the public procurement data reusability conference organized by the European Commission, Brussels. And you see that all these portals, all these reports are created from the perspective of procurers. And for instance, I'll give you a very simple example. You have a flag saying, are you an SME or not? This flag is very important for policy and procurers. A company doesn't care if it is an SME or not. Only the authorities care about this.
Right.
So you see, all the data, all the content, all the procedures are created having in mind the interest of the procurers. So what we do, we take all this data and we create reports and information for suppliers. Me as a supplier, I don't really care if my competition is an SME or not. I do care which are my competitors, which are their profiles, what technologies they are supplying, from what countries they are coming, the size of the companies. Me as a supplier, I'm interested to see the profile of the European Commission or the profile of the Ministry of, I don't know, Internal Affairs of Netherlands. When we create reports, we look from the perspective of suppliers. And when we clean up the data, we do it the same. We don't clean up data having in mind, and actually there was a question from Michel Bosco. That's a good related question on this. How would a tool like Hermix help detect potential situations like corruption, abnormalities, and so on? Of course it does. And we did extract some interesting reports. When you look at the spending, for instance, of European Commission, you can see some anomalies as temporal anomalies or areas. Obviously, it's not our place to interpret this. So data can be used for that as well. And there have been a number of projects, including research projects, not only for Europe, but worldwide, from the OECD, I think, from the Organization for Cooperation and Development. They do finance regularly projects to analyze this kind of data and to detect, for instance, abnormalities. We do have a research project ourselves where we are looking at circular relationships and subgraphs in the big graph of spending. Because, you know, the European public procurement sector is a huge graph, and the nodes are authorities and contractors, and they are linked through contracts, right? So if you are able to detect things like patterns and subgraphs, those are potential anomalies, like circular spending. You know what I mean. We do not particularly target this, but we have the data, and hopefully in the future we are looking for collaborations also with authorities that would like to use the data that we are producing.
Yeah, maybe one thing, because indeed, Michel, I think the answer from Stefan, it's important because I cannot say it from that perspective, but because, as I said, Hermix is processing those data largely. But I just wanted to jump on the point that Emma is asking. And by the way, I wanted to thank you for the paper, because I've been reading your paper, Emma O'Connell, that you published earlier, which is quite interesting on the challenges of the public sector or in public procurement. Now, one thing I just wanted to point out here is that in highly secure procurement cases, we do work with so-called the sovereign clouds solutions. So I wouldn't go that far, because, to be honest, it's pretty technical, and I've never been dealing that much, and it goes really far in terms of defense procurement, like ammunition and the likes, probably. But these are things that I believe, at least, I've never been dealing with, and I cannot give you an answer. But one point that we try and we work a lot with different authorities is this offering of the sovereign cloud, where you can offer the services through the cloud services that are already 100% based in European-based countries. They can also offer the AI-enabled services. That's something that we try to provide to different entities where the ask is raised, and we try to adapt it differently on the level of the security that is required. As I said, I cannot go deeper because I do not know, and I cannot give you the precise answer about WTO and the other rules of procurement. But as I said, from the technical point of view, it seemed to be feasible with several solutions. and I do not have it ready, slide. We have a deep analysis of sovereign cloud offerings that exist in every single country, at least the major countries in Europe, like France, Germany, Spain, Italy. You have in the Netherlands, you have in Poland. So major, I think even Romania, major countries have come up with very sovereign cloud solutioning that offer also AI-enabled services. I hope I answered part of it.
Thank you for taking on this, because talking about defense is completely outside my my area. I do believe in, and this is also kind of like a policy discussion, whereas, you know, I'm a software engineer. So I do believe in transparency and in economy and in a competitive environment. And I sincerely hope that in the future we will have a more open world rather than a more closed world. But this is, and we are working, and we are taking this very seriously. We are in the data business, making meaning of these huge amounts of data and helping to have it more transparent and available. I hope this will help to the right causes. Regarding dual use and defense, I don't know.
Anyway, cautious of time, and I need to drop in a couple of minutes. So if there is any other topic, happy to jump in.
We planned this session for 40 minutes initially, but obviously we were, and we are happy to see that we extended it a little bit. But I think we need to close now. If there are any other things, issues, you have our contact points, contact details, LinkedIn, email, phones. It was lovely to see you all here. As I said, an amazing participation, and looking forward to collaborate for various projects related to technology, to procurement, to public sector, and so on.
MIS indeed, short in time, and I have an absolute cut at 1700. But happy to have different discussions on another occasion. Through LinkedIn, you have my coordinates. And thank you very much, everybody that was raising questions. Thanks, Rudolf, for your comment. Pleasure, always. Okay, thank you, Stefan, for good organization of this event. And talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a nice day.